Hello, my name is Ahmed Elalfy from Section 1.
Hello, I'm Ahmed Elkammar from Section 1 and will be hosting today's podcast.
After reading The Thief and the Dogs by Naguib Mahfouz and analyzing the street art by Arab News, we both found a particular issue found in both the novel and the cartoon.
That's correct. Naguib Mahfouz's novel The Thief and the Dogs was written in Egypt between the 1950s and the 1960s. This was a psychological novel in which Mahfouz used the stream of consciousness to highlight the mental suffering of the lower class. In addition, this novel attempts to provide the reader with intimate and dependable feelings of the structures of Egyptian society during that time period. The illustrated cartoon, on the other hand, attempts to address how life was for the rich and how the poor were suffering. It primarily represented class division and struggle.
So, Kamar, how do you find the issue presented in The Thief and the Dogs?
Through the opposition of Tarzan's cafe and Rose villa and offals, Mahfouz presents class division and class structure in The Thief and the Dogs. In the beginning, Saeed went to his old friend Mr. Tarzan's, who owned the cafe. When Saeed arrived at the cafe, he was surprised as the cafe was quiet as normal because nothing had changed since the last time he was there. Moreover, all that surrounded the cafe was a wasteland that stretched into the distance. Also, the darkness was unrelieved by a single glimmer of light. Furthermore, the cafe appeared and felt like an island in the most of the ocean or an airplane alone in the sky. So, through the description of Tarzan's cafe, the author establishes a contrasting atmosphere in his novel. He compares the cafe to an isolated location using a symbol. In addition, the cafe represents the lower class, loneliness, and suffering that they face. This is simply remarkable in showing how the lower class was outcasted from society. In addition, the cafe was quiet and implies the lower class living with no hope, which creates a critical tone and fatalistic mood. This setting demonstrates how the lower class were left behind without the assistance of authorities. Additionally, it highlights how the poor were kept out of society and most importantly, their places were harmed. Moreover, Mahfouz starts chapter 3 as Saeed goes to visit Rauf Alwan. He went to visit him in his office. He was surprised as the building was described as the citadel. As he arrives in, his eyes catches rows of cars around the building like guards along a prison. Therefore, Saeed found out that his old friend became so rich after the revolution. So he decided to go for a visit and he was shocked as Rauf's villa was guarded on all sides by trees like ghostly figures. So firstly, Mahfouz implies a simile and a metaphor to show how Rauf's house was a place that only the upper class and rich people were welcomed. However, the low class and the suspicious citizens weren't welcomed in this luxurious place. Furthermore, this indicates that Rauf's office and house are more like a barrier that's only available for the high class society, not the low class society. Also, the way Rauf's house was built at the time, the poor citizens were suffering, which implies how the lower class is disenfranchised from the community. Moreover, the upper class flaunted their wealth by buying expensive clothes in order to differentiate themselves from others. Therefore, Mahfouz presents class division and class structure in The Thief and the Dogs through the opposition of Tarzan's cafe and Rauf's villa and office.
Wow, your analysis is very detailed. I particularly liked how you analyzed the metaphor used to describe class structure and how you connected this to the issue of class division.
Thank you. But how was the same issue presented in Arab News artwork?
Through the usage of juxtaposition, color is used to show class division. In this image, the author has split the image into two parts, the rich and the poor side. The rich man is driving his fancy bright car, and there is a fancy looking man in front of the car on the rich side, while on the other poor side, lower class people are struggling. Juxtaposition of color is used as the rich are given brighter colors and the poor are darker. This symbolizes class division as the image is split into two sides, a high class and a lower class that is struggling from lack of wealth. This cartoon portrays the division of class structure in ancient Egypt, with the rich represented as arrogant, lazy individuals and the poor shown as weak, unarmed citizens. As you can see, the rich guy tossing away money as though it didn't matter to him. This relates to our daily lives, since most wealthy individuals nowadays are arrogant and show little regard for those in lower social classes. It illustrates how the lesser classes take the richest scraps, as seen by the man begging for money on the ground. A very powerful wealthy man walked by. The poor were expected to bow their heads in greeting. The poor people on the dark side are suffering from poverty, as it is evident by their worn out clothes. A metaphor is used to compare both sides of the image, the bright, rich side and the darker one, that is clearly shown. The rich man is tossing the money, which clearly means to him as a useless piece of paper that he doesn't care about. A dark and dirty wall is represented in the background to represent the lives of the poor. In addition, the brighter side, as seen in the background, there are fancy windows and big green trees that represent their daily lives. This indicates that class division has really affected both classes as they rely on each other. As shown by the man asking for money on the ground, the lesser classes are devouring the rich's leftovers.
Wow, that's amazing. I thought your analysis of the visual metaphor was great. The way you explained how both sides are juxtaposed and using a metaphor to compare both sides, and then link this to show it is present in our daily lives.
Thanks, mate. So, based on what we have found, did both the political cartoon and the Thief and the Dog have anything that is similar that highlights how the low class were outcasted from society?
Yes, both texts present a specific setting in order to demonstrate both classes, which indicates that the low class didn't have the opportunity to meet the rich and were separated from society.
Yes, that's right. In The Thief and the Dogs, it's set in both a high and low class. Similarly, in Arab news street art, both classes are compared side by side. Added to this, in the novel, it describes Raouf's office looking like a citadel, with a row of cars, and portrayed his villa to a luxurious palace. On the other hand, the cartoon illustrates a wealthy man with an expensive car, and behind him there's a luxurious house. Also, seeing the lower class struggle and living on the streets, begging for some help, indicating how they are isolated from society.
I also think that the mood towards those who are socially excluded based on their class is pessimistic tone as well as a critical tone was created. So, do you agree?
I should hope so. However, the tone is slightly different. Mahfouz is more a matter of the fact, just representing the issue in simple language. Arab news is more critical, portraying class division as horrible.
That's true. Where else do the texts differ?
Well, I think that the low class, or the poor, were on the streets. But comparing to the text, the cafe was the main setting that showed how the low class suffered, and how Raouf lived in a luxurious palace and had nothing to worry about.
You're correct. I guess this is where the novel has advantages.
Visual art, on the other hand, can be tremendously emotionally compelling and reach a huge audience. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast.
Stay tuned for more insightful analysis next time.